Yeah, all right. Well, I wasn't expecting that many people that early, so that's super exciting. We can see we're here to build, which is amazing. Uh, so for people who don't know me, I'm Bert, Nepveau. I'm from Montreal, Canada. I've been doing XR for since 2005, so 19 years. Big believer in the space. Things always take more time, which is normal. But I really think we're near the inflection point right now. And hopefully, I didn't want to put too much slide. I'm more of a Q&A guy, so I want to, because that's the thing. Like, I was fortunate enough, like, to sell my company to Apple. Worked there 3.5 years. And if I was still at Apple, I wouldn't be here because they wouldn't allow me to talk. So I want to give you guys also the opportunity to ask me questions, and I'll do the best I can without getting sued. But I think that it's really also important to understand the culture at Apple. I have lots of people who poke me for advice and things like that, and I'm always there to give them a bit insights of the way Apple thinks, and it's like working at the CIA. But they're quite successful at what they do. They're a very well-oiled machine. I joke that I did my PhD in scaling at Apple because we were great to go from 0 to 1 and from 1 to 50 units, but to go from 50 to 1 million units and even more, it's another skill set, and I'm fortunate to have learned that at Apple. And I have a talk also tomorrow about my journey and how that journey brought me to the VC world. So if you're interested in learning more about that, it's tomorrow at 5:30. But just like a quick recap for people who don't know me, I started a VR company in 2005 to play my games on the Xbox 360. I'm a big hardcore gamer since the 80s. And for me, I learned a lot of things in life with games. I think games are simulators. So since I'm dyslexic, I learn more efficiently by doing shit in life, not by reading books. So I think XR is the perfect medium for that. And I'm super excited that there's so many people today for that. Just to conclude on that, so started VR, then we added AR in 2014 with the Kickstarter, and then our claim to fame was that we were the first headset to show presence in AR. So presence in VR, for people who remember, Showdown was kind of my first experience when I tried the Unreal demo Showdown on the Oculus. I was like, okay, this is amazing. And we were able to replicate that in AR using video pass-through. And that's mostly what we worked on at Apple to make sure that the pass-through is state-of-the-art, the best pass-through that you could have with the current technology. And hopefully, we achieved that. So as a hardcore gamer, I'm super excited to see that the Quest is doing quite well and that it's following the trajectory of the iPhone. Sure, the retention is not there yet, but I'll go a bit later on that, how we can improve the retention. But I think that being a mobile device, reduce friction is really important for adoption. You know, I love games, so PC VR, you know, I had my VR cave room, played Half-Life Alyx at the beginning of the pandemic. Still my favorite game of all time. But, you know, it requires quite an investment, and, you know, those freaking driver updates and things like that, that like each time you want to play, it takes you half an hour to do your setup. So I think the Quest is great on that sense, and I was there at Apple when they launched, and a lot of people ridiculed the Quest. But I told them, it's only the beginning, it's going to get better, and it's going to be the same thing for the Vision Pro. While it's not a perfect device, it's a great first step, and it will get better at each generation. So that's why I'm excited about, first, competition is good, and we already see Apple is making Meta better. But, you know, it's just history repeating. People were asking me, is this an iPhone moment, the Vision Pro? But no, it's a Macintosh moment. So for people who don't remember, you know, when the Macintosh launched, there was no graphical interface. You know, it was all text-based, not super user-friendly. But then Steve Jobs saw things interesting at the Palo Alto Xerox facilities and decided to productize that. It was still a $2,500 device in 84 money, so that's like $7,000. So when people say, you know, it's freaking expensive device, sure, but you know, it's not the first time that like you deliver a higher price device, but that set the golden standard for others to pursue. So, you know, of course I'm biased. I've dedicated most of my professional life to the Vision Pro, if we can say that. Like I started at Vervana, then put a lot of energy at Apple for the Vision Pro. But I want to tell it how it is. So sure, it's great. I hope you guys, even though it's not perfect, enjoy the video pass-through compared to the Meta 3. So now we already see updates from Meta. I just saw that they just push an update recently to what I call like the hand warping thing. You know, when you would wave your hand on the Meta, the Quest, it would warp. So that's something we work hard for not to happen on the Vision Pro. So now they added that. So we already see that Meta is embracing the best practices of Apple. Also, you want to be efficient. So when I was at Apple, you know, they were like, we don't want people to start waving around like in Minority Report. People will get tired with usage. So they came up with look and pinch interface, which I think is great because it kind of replicates the mouse. And then on the bad side, even though they won't tell you, it's a dev kit. You know, don't get me wrong, it's a really nice dev kit, but it was over-engineered. It's too heavy. They want it so that it looks great, you know, aluminum, glass, all that great stuff. But for me, the original band works better because I have a big head. But some people prefer the second one that comes with the device. So that really helps to choose the right strap for your own comfort. And you know, when people say, "Look, so can I try the Vision Pro?" I always show them Encounter Dinosaurs. I think it's an amazing demo. Kind of, for me, the equivalent of Showdown. You know, when I was doing a VR demo, I would do the Showdown demo. And for me, Encounter Dinosaurs is a similar experience where it's not too long. It kinds of blow people's mind if it's there for experience. And it's the fact that it's not totally VR, there's the AR portion. It's more accessible. So at Vervana, usually we would start our demos in AR because some people were like, oh, like, I don't know how it will feel. Say, look, it's like the real world. They would put it, okay, and then I would show them AR stuff like Pikachu, the DeLorean, drill, whatever. And to prove, the reason why I know that we created a presence in AR is because we had that drill demo, and I would, on purpose, drill the people's head, and they would go back like instantly. So it was just to prove them that even though you know it's not a real drill, you're like your more primate brain will react instantly to get out of the way. And then we need a cheaper version. I'm not involved at Apple anymore, but I read the rumors like everyone. So hopefully the rumors are true and they're working on a cheaper version, which I think is the right strategy. And even though it's a dev kit, it's time to get in the boat and start building because, as I said, I think we're near the inflection point. And when that will happen, the people who have built a compelling experience will rake the cash. So I don't want to go too technical here because I'm sure other people after me will do that. But I really like that slide I found on Twitter or X now that just shows like the different new features. I think when I talk to people, even at Apple, my friends who can talk to me not about the secret stuff, but more in general about the experience, they all say that for them, what they feel the most compelling is the spatial videos, the co-presence, where you can create, I don't know, let's say okay, now that I'm a VC, I get a lot of pitches, and one of the really cool experience I had was that I had my Vision Pro in Montreal. There was a guy in SF, the CEO of a startup, and another one, a CTO that was in Sydney, and we were all with our Vision Pro. So I could see them in my office in Montreal, one on my left, one on my right, and they were showing me their presentation, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. It saves me a business trip. So I think that experiences like that are the beginning of like the killer apps that are coming. So to build on that, I think social is really important. I have a 13-year-old son that, as you can imagine, has been doing VR since the DK1, but not too much. Just like I would show him from time to time some experiences. And now, like, if there's no social part, like, it would mostly play Gorilla Tags or Rec Room or any other experience where he's with real people interacting. Like, to do a more traditional, like, game with, like, storytelling, he's not very interested in that, which I think is great because a lot of people say XR will isolate you, and I think it's all bullshit. I think people like the youth now, they're on Roblox. I asked my son, so in your class, so I'm 46, so when I was younger, maybe 10% of the class would game, so I was very on the fringe. But now I ask my son, so in your class, who plays games? He says, like, everyone. I'm like, even the girls? Yeah, they play games. I'm like, awesome. So now Roblox, I think, is what's closest to the metaverse, where you have one platform and you can choose what kind of games that you're interested in. So I think Apple understand that, and that's why they're starting to add features that we saw last week at DubDub to make things more social, more integrated into their ecosystem. So I think that's great. Another thing that a lot of people were frustrated was not to have access to the main cameras. For people who don't know, like, Apple don't mess around with privacy. That was the biggest surprise when I joined, was that, like, before joining Apple, even if I had my documents on the cloud, I would double encrypt them just to make sure that But after joining Apple and saw how freaked they are about privacy, now I put everything on iCloud, no question asked, because I know that nobody will snoop around my files and everything. So I think that's why, like, they launched with a very strict privacy policy. But you see now that using their enterprise API, they're starting to give more access to the cameras, but of course it will come with making sure the users knows and give you access to that. So I think that's a great step. And you know, I mentioned earlier that I was a big fan of Half-Life Alyx. So I think for the Quest, since it's more, for me, it's more like a console on your face, which is great. What's missing is like AAA graphics. We're almost there. I tried Steam Link a couple weeks ago, and I played Alyx on the Quest 3, and it was a really good experience. I thought I would have more technical oops to go through, but I just installed the Steam Link app on the Quest and started Steam on my laptop, and it worked. So I think that, and one drives the other. Why? Like, I know it's an Apple Vision Pro workshop, but I think it's not, Apple can do it alone. You need Meta, you need new partners now. Like they open source their Meta OS. I think you'll see more and more players, and it's going to be great for everyone. It will raise the tide, as they say. So I think we're just one generation away from having Half-Life Alyx graphics on a mobile device. Maybe the Apple Vision Pro with the M2, the current Vision Pro could do it. Historically, Apple are not very gaming focused. Hopefully they'll release controllers soon, probably with third parties, we'll see. I just saw now that Logitech just launched their pen, so I think this is great. And you'll see more and more accessories and experiences. So as I said, I think it's the time to build, because in 1 year or two, things in my mind will really pick up and become mainstream. But to make things mainstream, you need to make things frictionless, easy to use for content creator. So as I mentioned, now that I'm a VC, I try to bring my personal experiences as an entrepreneur and as a believer in the medium, and like what needs to happen to make things really mainstream. And it's to make things easy to build. And you know, full disclosure, I'm on the board of Shapes because when I tried their demo like more than a year ago, I was blown away. You know, it was far from perfect, but I saw the potential, and I was like, okay, we need something like that. We need a Figma of XR. You know, when they launched the Vision Pro and they showed the look and pinch, rapidly Shapes added that UX, UI interface into Shapes so that you could prototype in advance of getting the device. It's easy to, you have a crazy idea in your head, you can rapidly prototype it and try it. And after that, once, of course, like Figma, you know, you cannot do everything, but it's a good canvas to start, and then you export it into Unity, and then you can polish it in Unity. So they're launching their Shapes 2.0 tomorrow at Meta's booth, so you should definitely go check it out. Or use the version 1 today to build your crazy ideas. So that's it. I'm ready for questions.
We do have a mic in the center for questions. I actually want to start off, Bert, you did an excellent interview with Kent Bai on Voices of VR. It was actually one of the most open and transparent conversations I've ever heard about the internals of an Apple engineering process. Normally, former Apple people don't speak about the internals, whether that's because
of normal.
Yeah, either because of NDAs or just a sense of discreteness
Fear.
coming out of, or fear, I guess, could be. And it sounds like with the acquisition of VRvana, the two technologies that you really enabled with Vision Pro were pass-through and this notion of transitioning from completely pass-through into the fully immersive with the dial. And you had this great story of actually demoing this for the first time to the Apple design team and Johnny Ive. And I'm wondering if you could maybe just tell a little bit more about that experience of bringing those technologies to Apple for the first time.
Sure. I mean, so when you're a startup, you're kind of petrified by the big tech companies because they're like, oh, they have unlimited resources. There's no way I can compete with them. So it's normal that you're kind of on the defensive. So like the first time I met Apple was in 2016 at GDC. And they were just starting their exploration of the space. And I showed them a previous generation, not the one that we won Best in Show at CES with Tom's Hardware, but the previous generation. And they were like, oh, it's interesting, like AR with video pass-through. And then we had a new generation, really improved it, and then that's when the magic happened, and things got a bit crazy. And then I saw them the year after at GDC. And what I didn't know is that internally, for a year, they tried to do what we did. And after a year, they said, yeah, maybe those crazy Canadians, they have something. So the first day, there was the day before GDC, I met mostly the engineering team. So we were in a secret location with blinders and everything. I was like, what is this? Anyway, so, and then I demoed with 50 guys from many departments, and they were like, yeah, good job. And then they say, are you willing to come the next day? It will be all the executive directors and all that. And I'm like, okay, sure. But GDC is starting. It's at 11. Can we do this like as early as possible? They said, yeah, let's do this at 9. So I come at 9, same thing, the blinders, but now it's at infinite loop instead of, I think it was Mariana something. So starts with mostly the TDG team, which is now the Vision Pro team, but like more senior people like Peter Meyer and all that. And they come, they try it, and they're like, oh, this is really cool, good job and everything. And when a German tells you good job, you know it's really good. So I love the Germans, by the way. So there were so many Metaio folks while I was at Apple, but they're amazing. So we did the demos to all the senior guys, and at the end, Mike Rockwell, he's like, okay, he tries it. I was like, yeah, like everybody seems to like it. Are you open for an acquisition? I'm like, yeah, sure, for the right price. How about your team? Do you think they're willing to move to California? I'm like, sure, probably for the right price. And then he's like, okay, let's get the senior VP Corp Dev. I'm like, okay, cool. And then senior Corp Dev come, and he's like, oh, should we get Johnny? And I'm already super focused on doing demo. I don't realize it's Johnny Ive he's talking about. But I'm like, and there's still people in the room who haven't tried a demo. So I'm like, want to try demo? No, Johnny's coming. I'm like, Johnny Ive is coming. So, and then I heard them, yeah, it was his 50th birthday when partying in Hawaii and all that. I'm like, oh, shit. So I reboot my laptop because there was a memory leak after a while, good old bugs, So I reboot my laptop, make sure the headset is squeaky clean. Johnny comes. Like, hi, I'm Johnny. I'm like, oh, I know. I'm Bert. Do the demo, super nice guy, And we had a part where we had an actual physical plastic part And then in AR, you would have an overlay, and it would show like defects and things like that. And it was mesmerized by that part of the demo, which makes sense, but it was kind of the first time that, because the demo had many different parts. One for people's side was flying a chopper. First in AR, you would shoot missiles in your room, and then we would transport you in VR like in the Himalayas and things like that. So that was kind of the transition thing you mentioned. That was like mostly the parts that people liked. But Johnny was more, as a designer, more interested in the physicality and all that, which kind of makes sense. So yeah, that was kind of a surreal moment for me. And after that, I think like the EPM, who was like making sure everything was fine. After the demo, I needed to go to GDC. He saw I was kind of like very impressed and kind of starstruck, and he said, usually we say you can't tell anything that happened at Apple, but I think you can say you met Johnny Ive. I'm like, oh, thank you. So that was nice. And then the rest is history. After that, like a couple of weeks later, they came to Montreal, and then we got acquired a few months later. But that's the story of Johnny.
Thank you, Bert. Is this on? There we go. My name's Cam Mullen. My team makes social VR consumer apps. Historically, when we build iPhone apps or Quest apps, there's one type of app. It's a fully immersive, or it's on a screen. And it's my understanding now that with the Vision Pro, you can build bounded, unbounded, and fully immersive apps. I'm curious your take on if you think they're, the billion-dollar businesses, the Snapchats, the Instagrams, the Tinders of this spatial computing will have one type of those apps and they'll do it really well. Do you think they'll have bounded, unbounded, and immersive? I'd love to hear your thoughts on where you think the opportunity is to rake in the cash among those like 3 different sections.
Got it. I like the segue you did there. I think that I'm all about creativity, and I think XR is the most creative media ever created. You imagine something and you can try to make it. It's not easy yet, but I think like you're not bound by the medium. It's more you need the technical expertise. And the bound, unbound, and all that, I think like they start with a more comfortable. People don't realize that, but Apple is very, very conservative. In their ads, it's all about, oh, we're crazy, blah, blah. But internally, it's like working for the military. And any mistakes cost them millions, if not billions. So they're very conservative. It kind of makes sense. So I haven't tried any games yet. And I haven't tried the latest one. So maybe there's some now. But that were like fully immersive. It was all like in a window. But I think that to answer your question, surprise users. So I think you can start with a bounded experience, and I haven't looked at the SDK if it allows you to do that. But I think like to start a more comfortable window experience and then maybe go in immersion. For me, that's a really compelling experience. So that's why I think like I encounter dinosaurs, even though it's very immersive, you can still see like people in the room and things like that. That's something while doing a lot of demos with it. People are like, oh, this is nice. Like, I don't feel like someone can come and poke me while I don't know it. So I think that there's the geeks like me who like want to be full immersive. I'm much more excited about VR than AR. But if you want a mainstream experience and make a lot of money, I think that having a mixed reality experience is really important, where maybe you start more AR experience, and as you get better and more comfortable, it becomes more immersive, and at one point you go full immersive. And that's where the youth, they don't care, they go full immersive because it's all they know. But for people who are a bit older, they prefer like a more mixed reality experience.
Cool. Thank you.
Hi, Bert. I'm Ted. So I'm a game developer, fellow XR enthusiast, true believer. So looking at my children as the way they play games today, right? It's hyper-social. The way we used to play Nintendos does not exist anymore. But as I think about mixed reality,
But we would bring friends, you know, we have four controllers, at least on the Genesis, and play sports games, so.
yeah,
but you're
yeah,
right.
friends, what are those? We'll get back to that. Good segue. No, but but one thing that I'm trying to pay attention to is my own bias about what games are and what what it is for kids. It's their culture, right? And it's very social. And as I'm a big mixed reality fan, and so I'm asking you, are you seeing any trends in co-location, remote co-presence? Like, how would the next generation of people who grew up with this as their native medium, how are they engaging with it, and what do they want, and what's missing?
I think great question, by the way. I think one of the biggest opportunity in my mind, especially now that I fund startups and we're all about remote work and all that, I think there's a tremendous opportunity for people to leverage co-presence like in different locations. So you want to hire talent where they are. And I think having a physical office is really important to build culture. But the closest to that is to create a virtual environment where people from all over the world, they can come to the virtual office and hang out and build that culture and have those impromptu conversation that brings to greatness. Like I remember when they explained how they built the Apple spaceship, you know. They said they wanted to make sure that everyone goes to the cafeteria, you know, because that's where like those collision of ideas happen and things like that. And I think we need the equivalent in XR. And it's a great opportunity for people. And sure, like we're not there yet. Not every startup or company can buy everybody a Vision Pro and create that. But I think the companies who will nail that part have a big opportunity.
Great. We have time for one more question, and then I would encourage you to find Bert in the breaks if you have follow-up, just to stay on schedule. Thank you.
I'll be quick. What is your take on AR glasses?
You mean like waveguides?
Just in general as a trend, and how do you see the future for them?
So I think AR glasses are great as a phone replacement. So I mean, like I have, as you can imagine, like a phone, an iPad, a laptop, blah, blah, blah. And I use them for different purposes. So for me, like text, emails, but not too much. I prefer to do them on an iPad or the laptop. But you know, like to come here, I needed like to make sure because I was already a bit late on schedule, not to lose myself. So like I used the map. So I think like AR glasses will be great for that. And that's why like people are obsessed with the Ray-Ban form factor, which kind of makes sense. But I don't think that you'll ever go to the equivalent of AR, VR, video pass-through. I'm exactly with Palmer on that. I think that doing AR with video pass-through has so much more tremendous advantages, field of view, opacity. It will only get better. As like with AR glasses, maybe there's going to be an optical breakthrough, but I don't think you'll ever get to like 150 degrees field of view with AR glasses. But for like added information to make your life more seamless, especially with AI, you know, coming. I haven't tried the latest Meta Ray-Ban. I have the first generation. But I heard the second generation, you can listen to your podcast, and just the audio is making things much, you're like a bit more of a superhuman. And I think bringing AR on top of that, but it's to make it the right way. Like I tried the focal, or it was called North, and we Googled, bought them. It was not a great experience. So I think we'll get there, but it's going to take much longer. I think, like, even though now it's taking longer than I expected, and I think most of people expected, I think AR will take even longer. And just like the laws of physics, you only have a 1 watt power budget to make sure that the glasses are at a temperature that's comfortable. You only have 1 watt. So you need a breakthrough in silicone and so many things to get to a really good experience. So that's my take on that.
Thank you so much, Bert. Thank you for the question.